We are a part of the Creating a Resilient Community Network, and we want you to know why PACEs matter. We also want you to know what PACEs have to do with the school system. Our multi-sector group of over 530 members and 250 organizations here in Central Florida hopes to transform our region into one of prevention, hope, healing, and resilience for all. We know the education system can be a powerful force in the process of transforming our community. By starting with the common language and understanding of PACEs, we can transform the community in one generation by raising awareness about positive and adverse childhood experiences and trauma-informed practices, expanding our CRC network, collaborating and learning together, leveraging our impact through policy and advocacy, and serving in an advisory capacity. Once people learn about ACEs and understand the long-term impacts, they start asking important questions like, how can we prevent ACEs from happening? What can we do to help people who have already experienced ACEs heal? What can I do about it in my family, in my school, in my workplace, in my home, and in my community? Adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, are potentially traumatic events that occur in childhood from birth to 17 years of age. The 3 types of ACEs include physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, physical and emotional neglect, and various forms of household dysfunction, such as having a household member with mental illness, a relative who is incarcerated or struggling with substance abuse, seeing a mother treated violently, or experiencing divorce. The term ACEs originated from a groundbreaking study conducted in 1995 by the Centers for Disease Control and Kaiser Permanente. Dr. Vincent Felitti and Dr. Robert Anda surveyed over 17,000 mostly educated, middle-class, white, insured patients in San Diego County, California. And they found that ACEs are incredibly common. Since the original ACE study, a 25-state survey of adults supported that ACEs are quite common and occur in all socioeconomic backgrounds. About 61% of adults surveyed reported they experienced at least one type of ACE, and nearly 1 in 6 reported experiencing 4 or more ACEs. The CDC's ACE pyramid illustrates the mechanisms by which ACEs influence health and well-being throughout a person's lifespan. You can see that ACEs is the 3rd level on the pyramid, but the base of the pyramid begins with generational embodiment and historical trauma. As you can see, each level on the pyramid negatively impacts the health and well-being of an individual and can lead to early death. Additionally, childhood trauma occurs within 3 realms, as seen in this graphic. ACEs are represented on the tree. Adverse community experiences are represented in the soil, tainting the roots of the tree. And adverse climate experiences are represented as various natural disasters that influence overall health. As you can see, all 3 realms are interconnected. ACEs are costly to everyone, but specifically think about how costly they are to the school system. 51% of children with an ACE score of 4 or more had learning and behavior problems in school, compared with only 3% of children with an ACE score of 0. They are linked to 6 of the top 10 leading causes of death in the U.S., such as 1.9 million cases of heart disease. The economic and social cost to families, communities, and society totals hundreds of billions of dollars each year. Can you envision the educational costs? This highlights why preventing ACEs is crucial. As your ACE score increases, so does the risk of disease, social, and emotional problems. This is called a dose-response relationship. The larger the dose of adverse experiences, the greater the risks. Compared to persons with no ACEs, a person with 4 or more ACEs was found to be 12 times as likely to have attempted suicide and nearly 2 times as likely to have had heart disease and cancer. Stress is a normal part of life, but when children experience trauma without a safe, stable, nurturing relationship and environment or buffering, ACEs can lead to toxic stress. Putting the developing child in a prolonged state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn can show up in their behaviors, learning, and health conditions. The overactivated stress response system, SRS, leads to elevated stress hormone levels, which damages the developing brain and body systems. In this graphic, you see on the right an abnormal brain scan in a child who experienced extreme deprivation in infancy in comparison to a child with a healthy brain. And the science of epigenetics shows the level of DNA. Toxic stress also changes the way genes are read and transcribed. These alterations can be passed down through generations. The good news is that we can overcome ACEs, and the brain and body can heal. If we go back to the original question of, what can you do about ACEs? There are a number of interventions that can be taken to mitigate the worst effects of trauma and help people move forward to have healthy and productive lives. First, humans are extremely resilient. Resilience is defined as the ability to roll with the punches. When stress, adversity, or trauma strike, it's natural to experience anger, grief, and pain. But with resiliency, you're able to keep functioning both physically and psychologically. We cannot take away someone's trauma, but there is much we can do to build resilience. When positive experiences outweigh negative experiences, a child's scale tips towards positive outcomes. Moving from ACEs to hope, or healthy outcomes from positive experiences, represents a shift in how we see and talk about the positive experiences that support children's growth and development into healthy, resilient adults. Positive childhood experiences, PCEs, are critical for children to build resilience and to mitigate the effects of toxic stress. Examples of positive childhood experiences may include feeling a sense of belonging in school, feeling supported by friends, or having at least 2 non-parent adults who genuinely care. Similarly to ACEs, positive childhood experiences have a dose-response relationship. This means the more positive childhood experiences a person has, the better health outcomes they may experience. As educators, being trauma-informed helps mitigate the impact of toxic stress in the children we serve. A trauma-informed approach engages people with histories of trauma in a way that recognizes the presence of trauma symptoms and acknowledges the role trauma has played in their lives. The reality is that becoming trauma-informed is a process and takes time. However, the first step of that process is to become trauma-aware and understand how trauma impacts others, which we hope you have learned during this training. By using a protective factors approach, we can also help parents and our community find resources and support that emphasize their strengths, while also identifying areas where assistance is needed. These 5 factors are conditions or attributes in individuals, families, and communities that can help prevent, buffer, and heal traumas in various ways and include parental resilience, social and emotional competence, social support, concrete support, and understanding child development. Finally, Dr. Nadine Burke Harris's prescription for healing toxic stress by regulating a dysfunctional stress response system includes 7 practices that we can all practice and recommend to our students and their families. They include sleep, exercise, nutrition, mindfulness, mental health care, healthy relationships, and nature. Her book, The Deepest Well, highlights her work in the field of ACEs. To conclude, as educators, we have to make a personal perspective shift from "what's wrong with you" to "what happened to you" or "what is right with you." Let's change the lens through which we view behavior and make the shift to better understand ACEs, their long-lasting effects in the lives of our children and community, to include ourselves, our staff, our students, and their family, and the paths towards healing. In addition to making a paradigm shift, if you are looking for something else that you can do today to become more trauma-aware, please consider joining the Creating a Resilient Community Network.